if you live anywhere near Wisconsin, May 1st is the regional that you'll want to hit up. Message your leader, you can get the graphics for them. And then if you feel like there is nothing in your area, reach out to an upline leader and ask them if they know of anything, because we have a bunch of different chats. So I'm a part of a chat with all of the platinums and higher in Marielle's team. And so I could always ask a question in there and say, does anyone have an event happening near Idaho? And, I would get responses from people. Or, so if you ever need me to ask anything like that in the chat, I'd be more than happy to see if there's something by you. And if there's not, then there might be other people that are like, no, there's not an event, but we've been wanting to put one together. So I could connect you with someone else and you can create them. Events are huge, huge, huge. And we're going to be talking about that more and more as when the world gets back to normal, not if, when the world gets back to normal. But in the meantime, let's talk some celebrations.
Hey, Taryn.
Yes.
Real quick. I was on the back office yesterday and I noticed that there's a Northern California event that's happening May 22nd.
Yeah.
It looks like Brittany Hitch is putting it on.
Uh-huh.
So there's that too. I was actually excited because I was like, oh, that's amazing. But guess what? Guess where I'll be May 22nd?
Oh, I like such a tough life.
I know, right?
When do you leave for that trip?
I don't know. I'm trying to find out. They have, I was sending messages yesterday trying to find out what the exact dates are. So I don't know yet.
Oh my gosh. So cool. Yeah. So if anyone's in Northern California, there's a ton of regionals going on right now, a ton of events, like a ton of stuff and a ton of stuff that's coming. So stay tuned because there's a lot of things that you'll be able to plug into. But okay, celebrations as of yesterday, things that happened to you. Yesterday was day 9. And your goal was to pick 3 affirmations and repeat them out loud. So is anybody celebrating money that happened yesterday? Any amount of money or a new belief or an aha moment or anything like that? Okay. I've had like literally hundreds. So if you don't have any, you're probably not doing this the right way, or you're just not doing it. So if you feel like, I really haven't felt different doing this whole manifesting thing yet, then really I would get the workbook and I would go back through it and start with day 1 and actually do it. Because like literally hundreds of like, oh my gosh, this is crazy moments hitting me, like probably like 30 so far today. Like it's like crazy what has been able to happen. So any celebrations in your business?
Well, I don't have a celebration, but I did want to share kind of more of like, I guess it would be more of an aha moment. So mindset wise, I think that that's where I've really been growing. And something that I heard the other day that actually kind of stuck with me is basically about standards and like what we set our standards to, habits and standards. So for me, this applies to like to my business because I feel like there's a standard that like a bar that I was putting myself at, where I was like, okay, I work full time. I can only contribute this much to Q. I can't go this far because I have this other thing. And so I was putting like almost like a limiting belief on my business with Q because I knew I had all of these other obligations. And then I started thinking about why I felt that way and why I was limiting myself. And I came to the conclusion is that I feel like I don't have enough time. And so then I started thinking about other ways that I can gain time and do things differently. And I literally am getting up earlier in the morning because I know that I function better in the morning. I don't have the headspace for it at night. I've been trying to stay up later and work late, but my brain at a certain point just shuts off and I just don't have the capacity for it. So I'm like, okay, if I can't stay up late and do this after work and, and I've been really, really busy at work. So I haven't had a ton of time to pocket out my days. And so I was like, okay, so if the morning is the only time that I can really function, then I just have to get up earlier, which means I have to go to bed later. Go to bed earlier as well.
Yeah.
So it was really more of like an aha moment for me.
We lost you, Alicia.
Because I was only performing to the level that I put myself. Oh, shoot. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. But I was only performing to the level of the standard that I set myself at. And I think that when I raise that bar, then I'll find other ways to make things work and to push myself to go further. And I think that we do this too in a lot of different aspects of our lives where, even just down to something that you were talking about the other day, having a messy car. That's, some people say, well, you have to create a habit of cleaning up or doing, and it's not necessarily a habit. Like the habit comes later. It's the standard that you set yourself to.
Yeah.
So you have a standard of, I am not going to live in filth, or I am not going to let garbage build up in my car, or I'm not going to leave things in my car. I'm going to take them out every day because that's just my standard. And once you do that, once you set that standard, then you create the habit. And so that's kind of where I feel like I needed to raise my bar and raise my standard of the level of where I'm going to be in Q and how I'm going to run the business. So I think more, it was more of an aha moment for me to kind of just be like, okay, stop making excuses. You need to level up.
Yeah.
And figure out how to do it.
It's just like Jake says, instead of setting goals, set standards.
Mm-hmm.
So your goal isn't to have a good marriage. You're going to set standards that make it happen. And April turned me on to this book that has like drastically changed my life lately. And it's going exactly with what you just said, Alicia. Things like okay, I've always been, and this is going to we're probably going to talk about this for the whole rest of the call because it's something that like everyone is kind of going through right now and we're all learning about it at the same time. So I've always been someone that didn't believe in manifesting. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in horoscopes. I don't believe in numbers. I don't believe in astrology. Not like, some stuff. I don't believe in the things because to me, it wasn't in the Bible. And I believe in the Bible and I believe in what Jesus said. And that's what I believe in. And so, and it's okay. I don't hate people who believe in this. Like my sister believes in a lot of this stuff, a lot of like the universal stuff. Like it's okay. I still love you and I get it. And everyone's different. And I'm that type of person that can see that. I love all people. But for me, it's always been so hard to like really open up my ears and listen when people talk about manifesting, when people talk about like putting it out in the universe or what goes around comes around. And I just could never figure out, even like meditating and like all of that kind of stuff, I used to feel was bad. Like I remember a year and a half ago, and Cindy was there with me. We went to a leaders trip that Marielle Filipponi did. And it was all of like silver and ups. And then all the silvers maybe it was platinum and up. And then all the platinums got to bring one person, or It was something like that. And so I brought Cindy as my plus one, and we went to Arizona, and it was this free trip. Marielle paid for it. And we went and got massages and sat by the pool, and was part of this entire training for 2 days. And she brought in David and Jenny Bird. So I don't know if you guys have been exposed to any of their stuff, but they're her business coaches, and they've been her coaches forever, for so long. And so now they do like trainings and stuff like that. And so they did this whole thing on meditation. And as they started talking about it, they were making us meditate. And as they started talking about saying, we're about to meditate, I started having a panic attack where I couldn't breathe. I remember walking out of the meeting room and going outside and texting my husband. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't breathe. I'm like freaking out. I'm like just so out of my mind. And I was so like physically worried and confused about meditating. Like, what even am I doing? Is this even going with my beliefs? Is this even like where, like what it was the weirdest thing. I don't know why. I do know why. I was raised to believe that these things were bad. Not like super drilled into my head, but I remember my mom saying that they were bad. I remember my dad saying that they weren't of God. And so that's just like, oh my gosh. But you know what? My mom and dad, just because they raised me like that, they just said it was bad because that's what they heard or that's what they thought. They never really dug deep to figure it out themselves. So just out of ignorance, they were like, it's bad. And so that's how I thought. So one thing that I've really learned in my adult life is to question everything around you that's happening, no matter if it's, and especially if it's something that you've always believed. Like April talking yesterday about which milk do you switch your baby to when they get off of breast milk or formula? Do you you just put them on cow's milk because they need milk, right? Like that's just like a belief that we've had inside of us so deep down that your kid needs milk. We need milk for healthy bones. We need milk in our bodies, cow's milk for vitamin D, vitamin C, boost your immune system, lower your cholesterol, help strengthen your bones. Like we've been told this. It's literally in children's books that are in my house. Like that's how early it starts. Do you know, and I'm not trying to create like any kind of argument back and forth, but you can research this on your own, but do you know that we do not ever need cow's milk ever? And actually people who drink more cow's milk have lower vitamin D and C and their bones are actually worse. It's the truth, but it's the dairy industry and it's just how it is. And it's crazy. That's like a whole other thing, but I never ever thought to question that until I started having kids and I heard someone tell me that. And I was like, what? Like you're so dumb. Like that is not true. And so I started researching and looking and talking to more people, and more people were telling me like, yeah, that actually is true. And even people like chiropractors, and my one pediatrician told me that. And I was like, wait, what? Like you're a pediatrician. Like, why is this false news going around the world? But it's because we didn't stop to question it. So my parents didn't stop and question this. And so that's just what they made me think. And so I kept feeling like this was so bad. But I truly believe that both Aubrey and April were brought to me by God, like 100%. I know all of you were. We were all brought together on purpose, for a purpose, every single one of us. Nobody is here by mistake. Nobody just accidentally stumbled upon this team and you're here. There is a huge reason why you're here listening to this recording, watching this live. There is a reason why you're here today. Like there's a reason. But I was active, and this is how I know about April and Aubrey, because in August is when, like right around that time is when April joined, end of July. And then end of August is when I had my huge mental breakdown. It was actually my second one. My first one was the January before, and then my next one was in August. And I was so diligently praying for someone to come into my life, and April came, and I just knew it was her. And she has taught me so much since then that has blown my mind. And the things that she has shown me where she has no idea, like, oh, hey, look at this picture. or, oh, look at this scripture, or, oh, look how cool. Let me tell you about this story. Things that I needed to hear in those exact moments, her sharing things, it has totally helped me go along my way in my journey and become a better person. And Aubrey is the same thing. So both of them recently have been sharing with me about manifesting and putting out into the world and into your subconscious brain about wanting things to happen for you and believing that they're going to happen. And I believe them perfectly paired with timing has made this huge, like, literally, I journaled yesterday that this is one of the biggest aha moments that I've ever had in my whole life. This is a whole new phase that I've gotten to because I knew what was holding me back and I just couldn't figure out how to overcome it. And it took me a really long time. So August is when I realized I had no idea who I was, what I wanted to be, was just pleasing everyone around me. I was doing what everyone else told me I should do. And I was comparing and I was just trying to be a chameleon and just blend in with whoever I was around. That's who I was my whole life up until August. I realized this is not who I am. I need to decide who I am, what I want, who I was created to be, and then really get on terms with the person that I am. And so I did that all the way through to January. I worked on myself. And then as of January, I started working on this business and putting together systems and processes and hired a business coach to look at our team to see, okay, this is what you're missing. This is what you're lacking. We were lacking duplication because we were lacking systems. We were working way harder than we needed to because we had no systems that would easily support our efforts. And so we went and started doing all of that. Now, I focused more on the business and trying to, like, how do I get to where I need to go? And I realized that I am not where I need to be because of limiting beliefs, because I do not believe in the greatest things for myself in all areas of myself. And that doesn't come easy to me. I'm very negative. I am just a natural naysayer. I just focus on the glass half empty instead of half full. And I know I preach all the time, like, focus on the positives, focus on the good. And I do focus on this. I do say those things. I make affirmations. I listen to my voice. I have Post-its on my computer. I have all of these things that I'm trying to do, but for some reason, I just can't get to where I need to be in my brain. Like, I just can't believe it. I just can't stop the negative self-talk. I just can't stop the limiting belief thinking. I just can't do it. Like, what is going on? Why can't I just believe? And I knew if I could just believe in myself and totally believe that it would happen. And so I started listening to April's book, and it's called The Game of Life and How to Win It. And you can get a free copy on the internet, right, April? The PDF, you can find it on there. I need to listen to the books. It's just how my brain works. So we found it on Audible. Well, April found it on Audible and sent it to me. If you listen to it on Audible, let me just tell you, the book was written a long time ago. Do you know when it was written? Like, what year it was? Because it was like a long time ago.
I think it was like 1925. Like, she was like so ahead of her time.
1925. So it's like right after the Titanic sunk, to put it in perspective for you guys. It was like 10, 13 years after that. And this woman wrote this book. So the recording is obviously not her voice. It's someone else's voice. And it sounds a little robot-ish. And it also sounds like the book is sped up. Like, it's like it's only 2 hours long and it sounds like it's a little quick. So when you first listen to it, it took me like 5 minutes to be like, okay. The first time I actually started listening to it, I was in the car with Dominic and he was like, can we turn this off? I'm like, yeah, we can. Cause then I was starting to feel like self-conscious, like that he like was not understanding it. And so I couldn't like fully listen. And so I turned it off and then I started it again at night when I was in the shower and I was listening. And so many things hit me that I just like stopped showering and just stood there and was like, what is even going on right now? Like, so many ideas that I would just was like paralyzed and could not even believe what she was saying, because so many of the things that she was saying are things that I do believe, and I have seen them come true. Like, her whole point of this book is who we were created to be, to just ultimately believe. And if you believe in God and you believe in the Bible like I do, then his word is enough for you to 100% believe that whatever he says is going to happen. So it really is just the belief in yourself. You are believing, not really in yourself, but believing like it is going to happen for sure. You're not looking at the negative outcomes on it. You're not thinking the what ifs. You're not thinking, yeah, that's a crazy chance. Like that'll just never happen. But believing in that little bit, and if you believe it so much, what actually starts to happen. And she talks about, what I love is that the subconscious part of your brain and the conscious part, the two things, like she talks science of like how your brain works. And that to me is very cool. But it's basically like how to trick life to get it to work for you. And it sounds so crazy. And the fact that I'm even like on this call right now, even talking about this is crazy, because it's something that I just shied away from for so long. But one of the examples, in April, start thinking of an example, because I want to ask you some examples, and you guys too on here, anyone on here, because I want to hear what things you've believed and that has come true. But one of the things that I always just knew, like I knew there was a few things, two things that I like immediately can think of. One of them is I always knew I was going to do something great in the world. I just knew that I was going to do something huge. Like from a young kid age, I was like, it's totally happening. Like, I am going to change the world. I am going to do something so big. And I never knew what it was. I just knew that it was going to happen. The other thing that I just knew without a shadow of a doubt is that I will find a better job. I will for sure find a job. And my mom's friends used to always like joke around, because every time they would come over, I would have a different job. And they'd be like, where are you working now? I'm like, oh yeah, no, I left that place like 2 times ago. Now I'm at this place. And they'd be like, I don't know anyone who gets jobs as fast as you do. You get jobs everywhere. Everywhere you go, you instantly get the job. And I was like, yeah, I know that I could get the job. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm going to show up. I can sell myself, and the jobs are out there, and I'm going to find one that I like. I'm going to find one. And so I would just quit a job and have no fear and just quit the job. And I would know I'll find another job. I've always been willing to take the risk, because I know that I know that I know that there is another thing that's better that's coming along the way. I just know it. It's just, I know it. And so I have always been able to find a good job. I have always found really good opportunities, because I am creating them. I'm opening that energy channel to say, I am ready for this opportunity, and I'm going to go out and seek it. Just like we're manifesting money. I'm looking for money. $1,000 is coming to me in 21 days. How am I going to find it? Now you're listening, and you're more intentional, and you're focused on the money and finding the money and creating the money and being open to opportunities, where before you might have just been distracted and you weren't paying attention, or you had too much going on where you couldn't open yourself up to new opportunities. But now when you hear someone talk about money, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, tell me, because you're open to that and you're listening. So it is whatever you believe. April, what is an example? Did you think of one? Okay, I want to hear yours, because I know that you have a bunch of these. And then anyone else who has an example, like something that you just knew to be true and you believed it 100%, and then it ended up happening. Maybe it was good and maybe it was bad. That's something too. Okay, April.
Okay, so literally everything that I put on my vision board about 8 years ago, when David was a baby, me and my husband sat down and we put together a vision board that we would both get our real estate license. We put a charger on there. We put a white SUV. Like, we didn't care what kind. It was just like a white SUV, and like all of that came true. We had a white Acadia, silver Charger. We both got our real estate license. And then, I mean, this stuff happens like all the time to me, and it's like crazy. And then when I did my vision board with Taryn and the girls last year, I knew that I was going to be bronze, like without a question. So I didn't even put that on my vision board. Like the first rank I put on there was silver. Um, so I just, when I get that gut feeling that I always say GUT is God. So like if someone says it's their gut or the universe, I always translate that in my head to God. And that's fine. That's your own belief. And I feel like everyone has their own relationship. But okay, specifically this one time, my aunt's friend was doing like a no, one of those like the cooking, pampered chef. Yeah, pampered chef party. And she was doing like, if you buy $50 worth of products, you get a raffle ticket. And she had like a Coach purse, like as the giveaway. And when she put that on Facebook, I was like, that's mine. I'm going to win that. And literally I had one ticket and there was a ton of people there and I won. And I already had known that I was going to win. So when I won, it was like, I almost had already experienced winning because I knew that much that I was going to win.
It
And
was
then,
the same as Dive 365 for you.
oh, I knew that I was going to Dive 365 without a shadow of a doubt. Like I put that on my calendar. And then like I feel like with this weight loss challenge, like I feel like I could have manifested that, but I literally feel like there was a block in my head because that is Emmy's first birthday weekend. And so like try as I may, and I was like, oh, that would be such a cool first birthday for me and DP and her to go. And, you know, she would be welcome there and everything. But it's just like I had that block that I wanted to be with family. And I didn't even submit my last photo. So like I literally like ruined it for myself. Yeah. And then just one story out of that book that I really think that resonates with like me in my life is like me and my husband are always like reaching for like the next step to like uplift ourselves, and him especially, he is positive like annoyingly all the time, and I don't know what I'd be without him. But this story in the book says that this I don't know if it's lady or guy, but they wanted like this fur coat, so they only had a certain amount to buy it, whatever, they end up getting it. And it's like because of that fur coat, like he was able to like feel the part, and then he got like a huge deal. It was like, what was it, like $10,000 or something?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have closed that deal if he didn't feel like that, you know? So sometimes it's, you know, maybe you do need a purse to make you feel like, you know, you have that, but also about like having that money all around you. Like, gosh, that it really has changed my life, is just seeing money everywhere. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm in like my comforter, you know, like you're in bed all like nestled up, like I am safe because there is money everywhere and it's flowing in. So I just feel like it's definitely all that mindset stuff, but
Oh
just
my
going
gosh.
and leaving, like resonating it in your gut. So I can think of a couple other personal ones, even for my journal. I'll share with you guys, but just Q too. I shared that with you guys before. Like last year, everything I wrote in my journal was Q, like freedom, time freedom, and like a way to make how much money I want and all these things. So thanks for letting me share, because I feel like I kind of needed that reminder this morning too. And I'll put the lady's name in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
I heard a story about this guy who was trying to like he had it in his mind about this house that he wanted. And it was like on a piece of property that like had this incredible view. And it was being built, like he would drive by it. It was like under construction, no, you know, nobody lived in it. And literally every single day he, on his way home from work, he would drive by this house, stop at the house, pull into the driveway, go into the house, and he would be thinking to himself the entire time, like, I'm driving home. When he pulled into the driveway, he's like, this is my driveway. And he'd walk in and say, this is my bedroom. This is where, and then he'd go out onto the balcony and look at the view. And he would say, this is where I sit and drink my morning coffee. And like every single day he did this. And this is like $1 million home. Like, this is not, you know, just your average, you know, Joe Schmo home. It's like $1 million home up in the mountains. And he, when the house was done being built, he went and put an offer in on the house. He wanted to buy the house, but he didn't have the financial backing. Like he didn't, his income didn't, he wasn't approved basically for the loan to buy the house. So he literally went within 30 days and made a massive change in his business where he brought in like a huge amount of income, went back to the bank, and they gave him the loan and he bought the house. It's so great. Like he literally, like, man, but that's part of it too, is because I'm a lot like April in that way too. I was actually just telling my mom this the other day when I was talking to her about the Red Rock thing. And I was like, you know, I have so many instances in my life. Like I could go back to like literally from when I was a little kid of things where I just think about them. Like I'm very headstrong about certain things. And I don't really ever think that you could just, you know, as far as manifesting, just sit there and be like, oh, I'm just thinking about this, it's going to come to me. Like there's obviously work, like what we were talking about the other day about finding money. Like you could walk out of Costco and find $10. You could, but you wouldn't if you weren't looking for it. Right. And April's always looking for money. So that's why she finds it, because she's looking for it, not because it just like pops in her face and she's like, oh, here's money. So you have to do the things. Like you can't just think, you know, as you're manifesting, it's part of it is the doing, is the work that you're putting in. So, you know, even in your business, like for me, I'm always talking about, you know, like I'm writing in my journal that I'm doing certain things. But I'm working towards those things. And even just writing it down or thinking about it every day is what is going to help propel you to do the things to get you to the place where you want to be. It's not, I mean, yes, the thought of it and there is something to manifesting, but you actually have to do the work too. But there's so many instances in my life, not even surrounded by business, but just certain things that I've wanted. Same thing, the car situation. My car that I have right now, I manifested that for a year. And I even went as far as I contacted a friend of mine who owned a car dealership. He had the specific car that I wanted, not in the exact color that I wanted, because I was like very specific about the color. And I contacted him and said, can I borrow that car for a couple of days? I just want to like test drive it and see how I like it. And he did. He let me keep it for like a weekend, and I drove it around and my husband drove it. And then I took the car back. And I didn't actually buy that specific car, not that one that I test drove, but that model car for another year. But the entire time, that whole entire year, I was thinking about the car. I was researching the car. I was looking at car prices. I was looking at inventory. I was looking at the year that I was doing like literally so many things because I knew that was the car that I wanted. And then when it came time to actually buy the car, I researched all the places in my area that were fairly close to drive to, that were within reason, called all the dealerships, told them I was buying this specific car that they had on their lot. And then I negotiated the price with them and said, I'm buying this car this weekend, and whoever gives me the best price is where I'm going to go buy it from. And I went and bought the car. And so there's, you know, you have to kind of there's certain things that you have to do in order to manifest things, but you absolutely can. And it's a huge like mindset thing. Like if you, like I was talking about earlier, like if you have a block, if you have a limit, like what April said, like she put a block in her head and she was like, yeah, I have, you know, I really want to do this, but she had this other thing that was like preventing her. Otherwise, she probably could have. She absolutely could have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true.
I knew someone from our team was going to get the Red Rock experience. I knew it. I told many of you that I'm like, someone is going to do this. And if you want it bad, I remember at convention saying, if you want it bad enough and you're like going to say it's going to happen, it will totally happen. Because it will. Like things like that happen. So does anyone else have any other things like this? I love hearing these. Any other examples?
I'll speak up.
Okay. Yes.
So when my husband and I, it's not Q related per se, but it is definitely mindset.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay.
about almost 2 years ago, we started our collision center, and I had gone 5 years of being a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have a job anymore. Um, and when my son started kindergarten, I started working in the office at the shop. And I told him, I walked in and I'm like, I cannot wait to go buy a car. And he's like, you're not going to buy a car right away. You haven't worked in like 5 years. And I'm like, no, I'm going to buy a car. And he's like, honey, you haven't even like your credit. I had zero activity on my credit for like 5 years. So I think my credit score was like 530. And I'm like, no, I'm going to buy a car. And he's like, okay. And he just kind of like rolled his eyes, and that was that. So I put the work in for like 6 months. I got a credit card with like a $300 limit. I started building my credit without him even knowing. I took my paychecks, I paid my card. Then I got a second card and then a couple more cards. And I was kind of like juggling that so that my score just was like climbing. I didn't even tell him, and this is a big purchase, but I didn't even tell him. I started looking online. I knew where my credit score was because I tracked it daily. And I went to a dealership, I went online, found a car I wanted, contacted a sales guy, told him I was buying the car. He ran my credit. He's like, okay, when can you come in? I literally didn't even test drive it. Walked in, bought the car, took it for a test drive after, took it to the shop, and my husband's like, what are you doing? He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I bought this. And he's like, wait, are you test driving this or did you actually buy it? I said, no, I bought this. And he's like, how? And I'm like, and I did it on my own. And it's the first time ever in my life at like 40 some years old that I bought something without a co-signer or my husband's like income backing it, like nothing. And he just literally couldn't believe I did it. So him and the one guy that we have working for us like looked over the car really good to make sure I purchased something that wasn't like bad. And I'm like, look, I know cars. I looked over this. And he's like, you did a good job. And I'm like, this isn't the car I want. I'm like, this was my stepping stone. And he's like, okay. So then like I kept working on my credit and literally took that car in like 7 months later, traded it in, got exactly what I like pay off. They didn't roll anything over. And I walked out with a 2021, the car I wanted, the color I wanted, everything that I exactly wanted because I told him I was doing it. And there was nothing stopping me. Like I was getting my car.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had it in my head that no matter what, I was going to do this on my own without anyone. Not that I don't love my husband, but for almost 18 years, 19 years, I've had to rely on his income because it was more than mine, you know, and I was like, this is the first time ever I did something completely on my own twice in less than a year.
So cool. And it's just because you were just strong mentally and you said that it was happening and you believed it.
Yeah, I was not taking no for an answer.
So awesome. So cool. Who else wants to share?
I'll share. Mine's a little different, and it's kind of coming from Taryn's background too, because just especially in the conservative Christian Bible Belt area down here, and the whole manifesting, even when we started talking about this, I'm like, I don't know about this. But it's definitely mindset too. And it's just been so neat to see how much I've grown even in this area of mindset, but even my faith in Q and everything. And finally taking that leap of faith and contacting Sarah and doing FFM. And then the whole manifesting and mindset for me, it's kind of like we've talked about letting go. I mean, even Aubrey brought that up, like giving it to God, releasing it. So we released a lot of stuff the past 2 months, and our credit scores, I think, improved like 30 points this month. We paid off 3 credit cards. We're almost down another credit card. We could take, sorry, that's my son in the background. We could take a trip to Florida for the first time. I was able, like, okay, we can go visit. We can go take a trip. We got the gas. We're okay. We don't have to freak out. We don't have to micromanage and budget every single little piece of everything. And I got to stare at houses this week. We're not moving yet, but I got to stare at houses, and you guys are talking about manifesting the cars. We're starting to do that. We're starting to finally have that mindset of, I can do that. We're going to do this. This is going to happen. I don't know if that specific house is still going to be there when we're ready to jump, but we have an idea and know this is going to be possible. But we're also, and I know Sarah Spencer's talked about this, just because you have money doesn't mean you get to drop it on the most expensive thing either. You still budget, you still find the best deals. And God's really just allowed things like that to happen just this week in the mindset thing and the manifestations. And we were able to get some really good deals on new glasses, because even though we had the money, I was not going to drop $300 down on a pair of glasses. And so my husband got his for $20 at work versus $300. So that's also extra money that's going to end up in our pockets because of that. So it's just been really neat to see when you release things and you just kind of let God work, or what, the universe, whatever you believe, and just let that go, what happens. And there's been so many times in my life that that's happened. Like, we've had money show up, just what we've needed. God's always provided. I don't know if you can hear Dominic screaming in the background. Fun screaming. We're at my parents' house, but so it's just been neat to see. Like in college, it's like I needed $5.34, and God would provide $5.34, like to the exact cent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been so neat to see that. And then, of course, with Q Sciences and the past 2 years and everything that's grown, and we're finally getting to the point. I mean, my husband's seen 2 paychecks now where he's like, okay, we can do this. This is what I wanted to see 2 years ago, but this is good. So it's just been so neat to see all of this progressing. So,
oh my gosh, I love all of that. And you do have such a strong mindset. I have thought that from the very beginning. Just like I see people all the time that like want it so bad and then they just don't make it happen. So in the beginning, it was like, she probably won't be around, thinking that. And then when I saw you like have that mindset of like, no, I'm going to do this. Even when you had months where you experienced failure and you went back and you were in a low plate, you're like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to show up. And I mean, how many times do we tell people, we even tell our kids, like, you can do anything you want in the world. And if you believe it, you can. Or as a man thinketh, he is. Like, all these things that we hear in these quotes, and it's so true. It's just, if you believe it's happening, you're not going to give up. You're not going to admit defeat. You're going to be like, well, it's okay, because I know it's still happening. It's going to happen. If you want it bad enough, it will happen. Like, even think back to when you were a kid and this type of thing happened. I realized that this was a trick to life when I was younger. And I knew that if I wanted something bad enough, it would happen. Like, I had the power to make it happen. Like I could just believe it. And then I didn't know at the time that it was God doing it, but I just was like, if I want to go to the movies bad enough, I will figure out a way to make it happen. Like, I remember thinking that, like, my friends being like, well, your mom and dad said no, and you have no money. I'm like, it doesn't matter. We're going to go. We're going to go. You watch. We're going to figure out a way to go. Or like, oh, you can go if you have money and you have a ride. And then I'd be like, we'll figure it out. We will find the money for sure. And we will get a ride. And we did every single time. We would figure it out. It would work. So it's so strong. And especially if you're like me, and like Sarah, how she mentioned, if you feel a little skeptical towards the whole like manifesting type thing, read the book, because it will explain things a lot more than just like, it's just like good juju out there. Like, I need something more than that. I need like I need something more than just, it's going to happen because poof, like the glitter falls from the sky and it happens. Like, I am more of I don't know, just I guess more of like a skeptical person when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I need to see the science or like see how it's working. So the book has really been helping me so much. And just from listening to it yesterday, there were there were so many things that have happened to me where I chose the positive road, where I actually was able to turn off that like fear in my brain talking. I was able to turn off that like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And multiple times, like when for my daughter this morning, I said something to her because I was like, that's not true. Don't say that. Say this. And then it was really feeling like just by giving her, like speaking life into her and speaking goodness over her and believing that it was going to happen, that it was going to happen. Like I always pray that God keeps my kids and my family healthy and safe. And it is almost like an obsession. Like that's all I can think about. And I even will go on people's Instagram pages and look at people that have experienced the loss of children. Or I have a couple of people who have missing kids that I kind of keep up with on Facebook and Instagram. And I like literally like obsess over it and think about it all the time and just like worry and pray. And I just like had this moment this morning where I was like, no, my kids will be healthy and my kids will be safe. They will. It's happening. I'm claiming it. I'm believing it. They will be healthy and they will be safe and it's going to happen. And I'm just declaring that and I'm believing it. And I also have my very first connection call today. So you guys know I've been starting my life coaching business and was like, okay, I'm going to start this business. So what did I do is I had to create all the things to be available to receive the money. My coach asked me, how much money do you want to receive per month in this business? And I sold myself super low and super short. And she was like, oh, no. You just said that your big scary goal is to sell out the MGM in Vegas. You really think that that's all the money you're going to be making per month? So she's like, let's just say you're making $100,000 a month. And she's like, that is for sure going to happen. And that's what you're going to make. And so what do you need to do right now to set up your business to be able to receive $100,000 a month? And I was like, wow, I don't have like anything done. So I was like, I need a logo. I need a brand. I need a website. I need a way for someone to find me and then to set up an appointment and contact me. So I need a scheduling service and I need terms and agreements and I need to know what I'm going to charge and how long I'm going to do it. And I had to create. And then when someone says yes, then what? What are the next steps? How am I going to coach them? How am I going to judge it? How am I going to, and I needed to know. So I set up all of that stuff because I was putting it out there to receive it. I believe there's no way I was going to work all those hours and not believe that it was coming to me. Like by showing up and working, you're showing that you believe that it's going to happen. And so I did that. I got my very first person who found me, scheduled the initial call with me. And the call, it showed up on my calendar. So-and-so wants to connect with you. They have more questions about your coaching, your pricing, what you offer. They got on my calendar for today at 11:30. And my first thought was, oh, this is going to suck when they don't sign up. It's probably like some person, probably not even like a real person. It's probably someone just trying to like get me to buy their product, or it's like too good to be true. And I was already thinking about being let down and man, this sucks because I'm not even gonna get my hopes up because then it's not even gonna, like, this is literally what I was thinking right before I got in the shower. Well, I was thinking since I found out like yesterday, like maybe 4:00. So from 4 to like 9 o'clock for 5 hours, this is all I was thinking is like, oh, I'm going to be so let down when I realize that it's not a real person and I don't get the money because I really could use the money. And that could be my $1,000 that I manifest. And that would be so cool, but not for me. That's not going to be for me. Like, that's what I was thinking. So I got in the shower, I listened to the book and I was like, I'm just going to start listening to it now. So I started listening to it and I had this overwhelming feeling inside of me of belief where I was like, I'm about to sign my first client tomorrow and she's going to pay in full. I'm going to receive $12,000 tomorrow and I'm going to be able to put it back into my savings. And I started believing, like, I'm believing all of this. It's happening. Oh my gosh, the feeling, like April, you said, like you kind of already celebrated winning the purse before you did. I celebrated in the shower last night that I was like, heck yeah, like I got my first person. I'm so excited. Like, okay, So they're going to sign up tomorrow. So what do I need to have in place? Oh, I need to set up the payment thing that I needed to do because they're going to need to pay. And then I need to tell them what to do next. And I like put that into, and then I even messaged April after, and I was like, guess what? I'm signing my first client tomorrow and I'm getting $12,000. And she was like, wait, what? And so then I was like, well, it's not like it wasn't confirmed, but it's happening. I'm confirming it. I know that it's happening. This person is signing up. We are going to be this. And you know what? Then this morning I was like, I'm going to have another person today come to me. There is going to be a divine connection out there where the right person is going to come to me today, and they're also going to want coaching. So not only is it going to be one person, I'm going to get another one right after it. And I know today's going to be a good day, and amazing things are going to happen today, and great impact is going to happen. And that's how I've been thinking now since I read the book last night, and just changing my thinking for 13 hours now, most of them while I was sleeping, has been such an impact on me already. So this is what has been holding me back, is my limiting belief. But I didn't know how to stop thinking about all the negative things that are going to happen. And this is the way to do it. It's not stop thinking of the negative things. It's start believing in the things that are going to happen to you instead of doubting and worrying and comparing and all of those. Don't think of that. Just think of what all the good is going to happen. What is going to come out of your life? What are the things that you do want? That's why we have vision boards, because it helps us to see them. And the more your brain can see it, the less crazy it is. Like think of like the richest person you've ever met in real life. And like maybe you experienced, okay, let's think, this is even better. Okay, think of like the nicest house you've ever been in for a second. Like the nicest house you've ever been in. The nicest house I've ever been in was Mike Illich's house. He is the owner of the Red Wings or something like that, their family. So my dad does all the floors for him and his family and all this stuff, and whatever. So we ended up going, he had this Christmas party. He invited my dad and me, and I just met John. I was like 19, and we go there, and it was so beautiful. And going inside and being like, somebody actually lives here. Like you actually walk up those stairs every day. Like this is your house. Are you kidding me? Like could not believe it. But I have had a picture of a house very similar to his house on my vision board over here for the last year. And I also have several boards on my Pinterest for my dream home. And now when I see nice houses, I don't go, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, I don't really like that one. I'm like, yeah, that's a nice house. Or my kids will be like, they used to, and it happens with kids too, because now my kids aren't like that either anymore. They used to be like, Mom, look at that huge house. And now they don't. That doesn't faze them. They're like, yeah, I mean, she had a nice house. They won't even like mention it. Because we talk about our dream house all the time. My kids, I know exactly how their dream bedrooms are going to be because we talk about it. And I'll say, oh, go on, if they're bored, I'll say, go on Amazon and pick out a bunch of stuff for your new bedroom. Just put it on there and add it to a wish list. And they go in there and they do it. And it's like, they know it's happening. And they'll be like, oh, Mom, look at that property's for sale. Do we want to live here? I'm like, no, that's not exactly what we want. Okay. Like they're in it with me because you have the opportunity to show your kids that anything can come true. Anything can happen if they just believe it and then do the hard work and show up, that it will happen. How do you deal with disappointment? Shrug it off and say the timing isn't right yet, but it is happening. Yes. When you deal with disappointment and something's not happening, you have to think that that is God's perfect will, and that's not how it was supposed to be made. So by me saying my kids will be healthy, my kids will be healthy, we will be healthy, and we will be safe. That doesn't mean that we will never experience sickness. And that doesn't mean that we'll never be in danger, because we could. And my kids could get very sick. I could have a kid that gets very sick with a life-threatening disease. And you know what? I'm going to keep believing that they're going to be healed. They will be healed because I know that this isn't what it is. And you know what? Sometimes bad things happen and it's hard. And that's when you find all the people, like the girl that I sent you, April, the other day. Her name's Ashley. I learned so much from her lately through the grief that she's experienced and the inspiration she gives, and just how she's been able to turn around her loss of her children onto her purpose here on earth and her purpose to other women. And it is so inspiring and amazing that I really just feel like if things don't happen the perfect way that you want them to, then that's not how they were supposed to happen. And we don't always understand it. And it's not really up to us to understand it when we experience things like that. But she says in the book, in April, maybe you can explain it better, but she says in the book so far, so many times, that anything that happens that is, I don't want to say unwholesome, because that wasn't the word she used, but anything that happens that's not good. Like the one woman, she always talked about how she was married, but she wasn't meant to be married. She's like, I would forget that my husband was even around until he showed back up. Like, I wasn't a good person married. I didn't care to be married. I didn't like really want to be married. And he ended up finding a different woman and leaving her. And she was bitter and upset. And they said, like, anything that happens, it's because there's something unwhole in you, some sort of belief, some sort of feeling you're doing something like, and I really believe that that's true. Like, I think of a lot of things that we experience, like my uncle right now, who is, he's been battling cancer for a year and a half, thought he was good, just came back. Now it's in his bones. And like thinking of him and like, why do good things happen? Why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, that's a question that people have always asked. Why? You know, why does this woman lose her 2 kids? Why does this person die of this disease? Why did my mom's friend pass away in a car accident? Like, why do these things happen? And we don't ever know. And we will never know why bad things happen. But when she talks in the book about your energies and your vibrations and things that you're doing, that she says that a lot of the discouragement and a lot of the pain that we experience is because of the way that we've believed and the things that those things actually happened. We manifested them. They came to us. A woman was so worried about being sick all the time and in so much fear. And I thought of COVID, people that are so afraid of COVID and they're like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get COVID. I'm going to get it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get so sick. If I get it, oh, if my mom gets it, she's going to die. If I get it, oh, this is it. This is what happened. And she even says in the book and breaks it down scientifically that in order for a virus to even get into your body has to have the energy to accept that space. And if you don't have it, then the virus can't even get in you. And that was like, wait, what? Like, that's the kind of stuff that's in the book, but she breaks it down science-wise, where you're like, okay, this isn't just magic juju, it's science, and it's how your subconscious works, and it's how your brain works, because your subconscious just wants to be right. That is all your subconscious wants to do, is it to be right. And so if I'm like, oh my gosh, that person's never going to sign up with me. That person's never, oh my gosh, I'm never getting Ruby. I'm never going to get back up to platinum. We're never going to have money. Then your subconscious is like, okay, we need to keep her at where she is. We need to bring no one to her. We need to because it just wants to be right. So whatever you think will happen, will happen. So whether it's good or bad, but what an amazing thing to learn about. I feel like I am so blessed to learn about this right now in my 30s, because I'm like, I am so young. I have all my 30s, all my 40s, all my 50s, all my 60s. Yeah, I have so many years to come where I can put this into truth and I can put this into action and I can see this, but I can also now raise my kids in this and I can teach them this and I can help them believe this at a young age, where it doesn't take them 30 years of losing this belief before they finally believe that something can happen. Sometimes, yeah, April, that's good. Sometimes it doesn't happen on our timeline because it's not ready. Other things are being sorted out to make it happen. And go back in your life right now. So we can't see why things are happening in the moment because we're too close to them. And it's what's happening in the moment. So we're usually affected by emotions, which distorts our perception, which changes our thoughts, which messes our subconscious. So it all kind of goes together. So that's why when you're away from the emotion and you take the emotions out of it, or you let time go by, so then your emotions wear off so that you can see things clearer, you see them in a different way. At the time that I worked at the MDA and was a telemarketer, I hated that job. Literally hated that job. I remember like cursing God for giving me, like, why would you make me work at such a crappy place? I am miserable being here. This is the worst job I've ever had. It was horrific. It was so bad. I hated that job. I am so grateful now that I had that job, because if I never had that job, I'll tell you what, I would not be right here where I am today. For sure. It was the only job I ever got fired from. And I got fired, and it made me look on Craigslist that night. And I found this job for an entry-level recruiter at a marketing firm. And it said big bold on there, must have experience being on the phone. And I just came from a job where I was a telemarketer on a phone the whole entire shift. And before that, I had no experience being on the phone. I was a waitress. I was a bartender. I was a hostess. I never was on the phone in my job. I had experience now where I was on the phone, and I applied for that job and I got it. And that job led me to my next job, where I met a man who told me about network marketing, who then told me to take a chance and join network marketing because he saw greatness in me for that industry. And I joined network marketing, and I met Kristen Adams and had a baby at the perfect time. Talk about perfect time. If I wouldn't have had Skylar at the exact moment that I had her, I know God could create Q and my connection some other way. But as it was, if I wanted a baby for 2 years before that, and John kept saying no. And so I finally got my baby, ended up being due the exact same week as Kristen Adams, bonding on social media because we both were having our fourth baby on the same week, and we're in the same company. And that's how we got connected. We both went through postpartum depression and anxiety together, and then were introduced to Q. So now I can look back and think, and now, yeah, a crappy job, that's nothing when you think of disease and heartbreak and grief and all of these things. So I'm not trying to downplay specific things that are really severe. But even when you look at some things like that from afar, and after time has passed and the emotion has worn off, you can look and see why certain things could have happened the way they did, or just see the good that came from it. Some good that came from whatever heartbreak happened, some good that happened from some sort of grief. There is something that's good that will happen. It's just focusing on that and concentrating on that and believing to be healed and believing that it will happen and believing that it's real. And so for me, I was thinking, I'm like, I need to send this book to my uncle because he needs to be reading this. He's a super strong Christian and leader in his church. And because I'm like, if I ever had dealt with disease like that, you better believe that would be the first thing that I was reading to get your mind right, because it's all about your mind, 100% in your mind. So the thing that you're doing today for the money challenge for day 10 is you're meditating. A 10-minute meditation. Go on Google, go on YouTube, find any meditation you want. Start with guided meditation if you've never meditated before. And you are meditating because when you slow down physically and you meditate and you slow down your subconscious mind and you slow down all the things, the noise and the overwhelm and all the commotion and all of the thoughts and ideas in your head, quiet and slow down. And then now you're open to hearing other things. And so what I want to tell you though, is meditation is weird at first, and I'm not a huge meditator, but I'm learning to become one. And it's not about the information you're receiving while you're meditating. It's the information you're going to receive after you're done meditating. Meditation is the beginning of quieting your brain and focusing on what you want and focusing on being calm and at more of an alkaline state, to then be open to let thoughts come through when you're in the shower later on in the day. So you're not so overwhelmed with all the things, because you need to be open and thinking about the things you want to receive, because they could be there and you don't take them. If you're not looking for the money on the ground, you're not going to find the $10 bill that April found. If you're not looking for money on the ground, you're not going to find the quarter that Cindy found. If you're not looking for 10 grand, you're not going to go ask your boss for 10 grand. Like Alicia did. Like, it is out there. It happens. So you have to be clear enough to be able to look at what you want and to be able to receive it. Because if you're distracted and you're like, okay, I got to call the doctor. I got to take the kids to the dentist. I have to make dinner. Oh shoot, I didn't buy groceries. Okay, I need to, and if this is what you're in all day long, that is all you're going to receive is chaos and craziness and overwhelm. So 10 minutes, every single person has 10 minutes. 10 minutes to sit in quiet. You can lay down in your bed in the dark. You can sit up in a chair, however you want this to be done for you. She says multiple times on this day to do it how it works for you, because that is when meditation works, is when it feels good for you. So if you do it in the car while you're driving to work and it works, fine. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's doing what works for you. So today, take 10 minutes and then you're going to answer some questions. So I'm going to post the questions in the Breakfast Club so you have them, so you can journal today and you can write down the answers after you're done meditating. So when you get off of this call, look at your schedule for today and figure out, where am I going to insert this 20 minutes, this 10 minutes of meditation and 10 minutes of journaling? Where am I going to insert this in my day so that I get this done today? Don't just say, okay, I'll do it later, because if you don't schedule it, you're not going to do it. So looking at your calendar, and especially if you have a busy day, like, when am I available to do this? And then you need to schedule it and do it. So, okay, I told you guys we were going to talk for a long time about this because it's something that a lot of people I have seen just totally change so much in themselves. So I hope you have an awesome day. Tonight we have an opportunity call with Miss Jen Peniston. So it was going to be with Kristen Adams, but Jen just learned this whole new way of presenting with Jake, and she wants to do it. So we're going to let her present tonight. So 9:00 Eastern, you can get on there and watch her, invite some of your people on. Don't forget your IPA sheets. And if you need anything, and meditation recommendations, I would just go on YouTube and type in 10-minute guided meditation and see what pops up, and just click on one. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.